Team USA uses a 4-goal third period to blow it open against Team Finland, and the Tkachuk brothers put on a show.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Friday, February 14th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers and on Blue Sky at LOFLA Panthers. You can follow the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, make sure to press that like button. Shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. So, Team USA in night 2 of the Four Nations face-off. Now, each individual team has played at least one game, and we'll discuss more of the standings later in the show. But the Team USA blew the game open in the third period, where they started the period on the power play. It was a 2-1 game after Team Finland scored the first goal. The Team USA also got 2 after that, and then it was the third period that really made the difference for Team USA in a 6-1 demolition against Team Finland in Team USA's first game, which coming in as the favorite, they get the 3 points here on the night, a 6-1 victory. And here to recap this game between Team USA and Finland, it is a Friday, which means it's Fairbanks Friday here on the show. And Nick, welcome to the show on a really fun night that not only was this more of a for Team USA, it was a game that broke open, but more physicality in this game compared to the first one that we saw from Canada and Sweden last night.
Definitely, and I think it comes down to the fact that if you saw through the first 2 periods that these teams were almost evenly matched as far as the way that they were playing. Finland was playing more of the neutral zone game, whereas the United States was trying to play the how should I say, the north-south game, and Finland just wasn't having it. So, what's going to happen? You have to bang bodies. You got to start creating turnovers and everything. So it's not surprising that there was more physicality. But I'll be honest, I thought this was going to be the closer of the 2 matches. After Canada went up, I think 3-1 on Sweden. I didn't think the game was, all the way over, but I also didn't think that they were going to completely come back and force overtime. Whereas tonight, going into the third period with the U.S. up 2-1 on Finland, I thought Finland had a chance to possibly tie this one up real early. And, Mr. Matthew Tkachuk did away with that real quickly. So overall, I think the first 2 games of the tournament have been successful. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens on Saturday.
No doubt, and we'll get to the Saturday part later. But, I mean, Team USA had 2 opportunities at the crossbar in the first period. I thought Jack Hughes and Austin Matthews were really setting the tone for them. Finland were winning a lot of their puck battles in the corners and then getting them back up to the point, which was something that the broadcast also mentioned that was very key for them in order to just still stay structured, and we saw the injury replacements for Team Finland and Jokiharju and Madampalo impacting. I mean, there was the pushing and shoving on JT Miller around the net, so they were gonna try to intimidate the opposition somehow. They were trying, not necessarily successful for them. And then even early on, after the first period, Asa Lindell had over 10 minutes of ice time for him, and so the amount of minutes that him and someone like Nico Mikkola were crunching in a game like this. Nico Mikkola finished with 21 minutes here for them. And then for Team USA, just also the ability to get themselves a little relaxed there after Brady Tkachuk scored to tie the game at 1. So now you that feel for each other was there, but also unlike unlike Sweden, Finland also had a stretch for against their opposition that they didn't allow a shot. There was a while where where Team USA didn't have a shot on goal until their second power play of the first power play of the second period, just 8 minutes in. And really, that power play unit for Team USA, they were having a hard time connecting in the zone, connecting on their passes. So we saw Finland really pressuring well. I mean, Etulis Turunen and Anton Lundell were a pair on the PK. So, but the adjustments that Team USA made there, that was something notable from what was compared to the first even 35-ish minutes for them.
Most definitely. It's almost like we were watching Florida Panthers hockey, right? You know, the aggressive penalty killing and the forecheck. Finland was, playing to that identity. So, it kind of felt comfortable as a Panther fan to watch that and just say, okay, I know exactly what they're doing. But, sometimes skill is going to win out against will. And, that's exactly what happened tonight. As far as, the players go, I thought Mikola had he was doing okay. I just, I think as the game wore on, he was taking on too much and unfortunately had kind of an own goal. And then right after that was kind of spun around and kind of led to the second straight goal that I believe Gensel scored on. So
5-hole past Saros too.
Yeah. So not really the greatest look. Barkov looked good in the first period. He looked really good with Rantanen on a few of their shifts. It looked like they were just dominating that. Nobody could, push them off the puck. I was kind of getting giddy over that, just, imagining one day if they ever played together in the NHL, but probably not going to happen. And then you have Lundell and Luosterainen just playing to their identity. And that third line in Finland actually was very effective and through the first two periods. They were getting pucks deep, they were winning battles, they were getting chances. Surprised they didn't score, but it's just the way it goes sometimes. So can't really say too much bad about Panther players tonight, especially the one on the other side of the ice as well.
Yeah, we'll dig deeper to in them for segment number 2 for sure. But I know Matthew Tkachuk got first star of the game. But I believe the real first star of the game is the head coach of Team USA, Mike Sullivan, for making it happen. And when he made the change for Brady and Matthew to put them together, the game was tied. And then look what happens after. And then right before that, I actually have this in my notes where Brock Faber was very passive on a pass from Brady Tkachuk, and then Faber decided to pass to Matthew Tkachuk instead of taking a few steps and to shoot it. And then what do you know? The two Minnesota Wild players connect, which on the goal to get it past the Saros there to make it 2-1 at the time. And then just when you think of just as a fan of the game, going into the third period with a lead and going on the power play and only using 3 seconds of it, that I was salivating a little bit. But here's the thing that the 3 goals have in common from what Team USA scored: give and goes. That was the key. And Austin Matthews, although he only got an assist on one of those, he was really one that really created that confusion for Team Finland when Team USA was gaining the zone. And to think that how much of an impact that he did from start to finish, even though he didn't get any of the stars of the game, I thought that Austin Matthews was just outstanding. And really the give and go play. And he wasn't on the ice for the third goal of that one, but just the fact that you're already down 2 for Finland, and then Erik Haula can't handle the pass in the neutral zone, which causes the Team USA to go north. And then with the speed there and also the size of the Tkachuks and Eichel together, I mean that's when you knew game over for this one for USA Finland.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about Austin Matthews, and if you haven't been watching him, I don't know how anybody hasn't been watching him over the last, I would say probably season, is that, although he can put the puck in the back of the net and can score 70 goals. He's refining his game right now, and I think it's due to the fact of, where the Maple Leafs are in their progression and what they need him to be and who they brought in as coach. So it's really nice to see how he's started to evolve his game now to be more of a two-way forward and actually really help out. So, and you saw that on display tonight. And as far as what you were saying about the give and goes, it's all about speed and all about gelling together with, Jack Hughes and everything. Jack Hughes is more of a middle ice player. He doesn't play along the boards a lot, whereas Matthews can play anywhere. And if you can get a defensive zone or a zone defense to start moving out of position with give and goes and everything, it's going to be open season all night. And it looked like that at some points against Finland, which is why they got the crossbars and everything. So, it was really effective tonight for the U.S.
Yeah, and the battle, you spoke about battle along the boards, which resulted in the first Brady Tkachuk goal that was set up by I forget who it was, Matt Boldy on that one, and then just getting behind the defense and then just bouncing it off UC Saros from that one. So it was really about also strength on strength for this one that really paid off for USA here in this game. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we're going to pinpoint and focus really on the Panthers who were in this game because this game had 5 of them in it. We're going to continue the conversation more and next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. But first, we're going to tell you guys all about FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you missed the opening tip or want to bet on fourth quarter comebacks, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can combine your live bets into a same game parlay. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Segment number 2 here on this Friday, February 14th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Friday as Team USA defeats the Finns by final score of 6-1. And truthfully, Nick, I was so close to saying, and the Florida Panthers win, because we've done so many of these over the last few years.
This is new for us.
Yeah, this is new when it comes to game recaps of international hockey versus club. And speaking of club and international hockey, Matthew Tkachuk, 9 goals in the last 7 games combined for club and country for him. First star of the game, the first star of the game for this international tournament they get Rolex watches. So that's another thing that's really something cool for that. And we heard Freebird 6 times on the night. Incredible. And we owe it to the US World Junior team for they picked that song during their run to the championship there. And it was Zeev Boy, a Minnesota Wild prospect, that chose the song. And speaking of the Wild, they are the team that's shown out the most in this tournament with a goal by Jonas Brodin, Joel Eriksson-Ek, and then the 2 Wild players on Team USA who connected for a goal, in Brock Faber and Matthew Boldy. But Matthew Tkachuk, I will say though, although he was the first star of the game, he wasn't the most noticeable, in the first 30 minutes. And it really took until that change in the lines. I mean, credit to Brady, laying the wood consistently. There was a point in the game where him and Nico Mikkola collided, and they might have gotten away with the too many men on the ice based on, I believe Charlie McAvoy was also got part of the collision, and there was just bodies on the ice there. But just the fact that that change, and then Matthew Tkachuk scoring both of the goals on the power play, one off a rebound off of Zach Werenski, which Werenski got 3 points on the night. He is an outstanding story based on the Columbus Blue Jackets' season and everything they've gone through with Johnny Gaudreau, and still carrying his jersey in their locker, having a stall for him, and gonna carry that over when they go to Boston. Matthew Tkachuk, I'm gonna check a little bit of his final stats here for him. Finished with 8 shots on goal. My goodness, 2 hits and only 1 giveaway for him. But most of it was really done in the second half of the game. But hey, the better players get better as the game goes on, right?
Most definitely. I mean, kind of what we mentioned. I think Mikkola helped him out with that first goal. So, it's a Panther on Panther goal there.
Panther on Panther crime.
Exactly. And then, as the game was starting to get more blown open, you just had this perfect little shot from Werenski where it was right in Tkachuk's wheelhouse where he was able to tip it, went right off his house, and he was able to bang in the rebound. So I think that as the game wore on, it really played to more of what the United States wanted and also to what Brady and Matthew are used to. So they're allowed to bang bodies. They're allowed to be on the forecheck and, score greasy goals. I mean, let's be honest, all the goals that, the Tkachuk scored on were dirty goals. And that's where you need to go. You need to be in front of the net or near the net to score. And I think that may be something that Canada or, Sweden, because we don't know what's going to happen, they might want to take note of. I know Canada's up to the task, but will Sweden be up to the task to defend that type of play? And, for the rest of the Americans, I thought they played pretty well. I think that there were some times where, I wish that, a player like Kyle Connor got a little bit more of a chance. It seemed like he was not really with the right people tonight on his lines. Hopefully they'll figure that out because that's a guy that I expected to go off tonight with maybe a goal or two. But, and then Connor Hellebuyck, I mean, he was just, solid. He didn't have to do anything crazy tonight. I mean, he got beat on that first shot by Yoki Haru, but other than that, I mean, there was no problems for him at all.
Yeah, which Kyle Connor, tried to go for a check, and then that ended up in the rush that he was a little late getting on that on the back check there, which resulted and great screen by I believe it was Oli Mata on the give and go, but also credit to Eetu Luostarinen on getting that puck out quickly, even though he didn't necessarily record an assist there. So Lundell and Luostarinen were on the ice for the first 2 goals, but I don't really blame I don't blame them on the second one by Team USA. That was a board battle that was lost by Mikkel Granlund there in the corner, and then I mean just a lack of protection around the net. So both just looking at the simulator, the visualizer again just now, Matt Boldy just left all alone there around the net for him. So hopefully for Eetu and Lundell, we know what their games are: defensive first guys, and then Mikkola, an unfortunate bounce off the stick for him. And hey, he's playing a bigger role than he is asked to on his on his actual club team. Barkov, 5 shots on goal for him. He was. You can't say anything bad about how Barkov played. Over 50% in the dot, winning a whole bunch of the battles early and working them back up high as we mentioned earlier. And look at this: Sebastian Aho, Roope Hintz, Mikko Rantanen, Patrick Laine all had 1 shot on goal combined. And I don't know how much you were paying attention to the crowd noise, but on Finland's first power play, when Barkov fed it to the flank of Patrick Laine and he was ready to do the one-timer, the crowd was oohing. So you just heard how ready they were to see, of course, Patrick Laine playing in the Montreal market. He's a part of the home team there, but just the oohs and ahs there. And of course, USA is the team that everyone is cheering against, at least in Montreal and Canada. And this isn't, and not even gonna touch the political stuff, but yeah, that just the oohs and ahs just of Barkov to Laine there. You felt that really of just world-class player Barkov, and then just their own in Patrick Laine.
Definitely. And, to me, it was kind of refreshing to see Barkov actually being the quarterback. I mean, he demands so much attention, and he's so careful and protective of the puck that, you could trust him almost at any point. But, with, all these injuries to the Finnish blue line that, they're almost forced to actually put him back there. I mean, if Miro Heiskanen didn't get injured by, an unfortunate accident, then he'd be running it, and maybe Barkov is on one of the wings or playing low, one of the low bumper spots. And, maybe Finland has a different outlook, or maybe has a different, possibly another power play goal that goes their way. But, Barkov wasn't a problem tonight. It was, Aho. Excuse me. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Little extra for the crowd watching. But yeah, it was Aho, it was Rottinen, it was Rupe Hintz. Like, you didn't ever feel like they got into a groove. They weren't winning a lot of puck battles. And, if it wasn't for the, Barkov or the third line of Losterrein and Lundell, and even the fourth line of Finland, there was nothing else. And, that's a credit to the U.S. for actually neutralizing or not allowing the Finnish Stars to actually put their, their fingerprint on this game.
Speaking of fourth line for Finland, Joel Armia, after the cross-check to Charlie McAvoy, you saw Matthew Tkachuk chirping at the Finnish bench after that. I while he was doing that, I went to look to see if Eetu or Lundell were going to react, but they held a straight face and didn't even say anything. I mean, what's probably going through their hair is like, yeah, we know how he does it. Yeah, okay. That's just Matthew being Matthew. So
there was one point in the game where I think Tkachuk was going to go lay a hit on somebody. He was going to grab somebody, and then he noticed it was Barkov, and he's like, "Oh no, I'm just going to turn around and go find the play or go skate somewhere else." But these guys know what they're playing for. But at the same time, they're playing for not only country, but I think after this they're going to be playing for another big prize. So they don't want to. I don't think Barkov wants a black eye.
No. One more thing before we transition.
Mm-hmm.
Both Tkachuk brothers were on Hat Trick Watch. This was tweeted by NHL PR an hour ago. The last time someone from Team USA had a hat trick in international play was Keith Tkachuk.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Cut from the same cloth. It'll happen.
Yeah. So
one of them. It'll happen.
That is such an awesome stat. I'm like, wow. Just hey, they truly are a hockey family, and I wonder what the conversation after the game is with the brothers getting together with Big Walt and Chantel, giving them a hug, and just a dream come true for the family to see them together. And honestly, Mike Sullivan during an interview said not something he'd rule out. I did not think it would be this early. So we saw it in game one, but hey, it got the USA going.
Hey, hats off to Finland for forcing them to make that change, because nothing was going on at all.
So. For sure. So, all right, we're going to transition to segment number 3, where we're going to discuss more about Rivalry Saturday coming up for the Four Nations face-off, and to discuss everything regarding the standings as it currently stands. We're going to discuss that next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Segment 3 here on this Friday, February 14th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Friday. Team USA came off a 6-1 win over Team Finland, and the standings goes Team USA with 3, Canada with 2, Sweden with 1, and Finland with 0 after one game. And I tweeted this right before we came on the air, Nick. Do you want chaos going into Monday? If you want chaos going into Monday, Sweden would the ultimate chaos would be Sweden winning in regulation, Canada winning in overtime on Saturday, and that would bring Monday to 3 teams tied with 4 points. And it would create a scenario where it's win and you're in of any kind for each team. So that would be something. But the fact that Sweden-Finland rivalry, we saw the chirps of Patrick Laine, Victor Hedman. They don't like each other. But the fact that the game will be over by 3:30, 4 o'clock, and then you have 4 hours to think about what each individual team has to do, especially if you're on the Team Canada side of things, being behind a point. But also this day, the off day in between, if you're a team like Finland, who got the doors blown out of them in the third period, but then if you're Sweden, you're thinking a little bit of confidence because you made it somewhat of a game after going almost a full period without a shot. I mean, it's really truly set up for a great Saturday, and this is the night, February. This is the day, February 15th, that everybody was looking for when the schedules were announced. The rivalry Saturday. It's gonna be prime time overseas when Sweden and Finland play, and then prime time for us when we see USA Canada.
So the fact that they put it on a Saturday and there's 2 games, I really don't think that there's a lot going on. I mean, the NFL's over. I mean, they may have the NFL's over. They don't have their Pro Bowl thing going on.
NBA's All-Star Weekend.
Yeah.
They're doing Friday and Sunday, so hockey is on full display on Saturday.
And thankfully it is. I don't know if the NHL planned it that way or if they got lucky, because let's be honest, their track record on these kind of things has not been the best. But maybe they're learning and they're adapting. But to say that, these rivalry games won't bring the best, I think it will. Finland's going to be desperate. And, they only like Swedish meatballs, and that's the only thing that they like about Sweden. I don't know what Sweden or what Victor Hedman said he liked about any of the Finnish players or Finland itself. But, I think you just have 2 teams that are looking for, respect. You always hear about Canada and United States or maybe Russia. And yet you have these 2 other Scandinavian countries that are actually very good at developing a lot of NHL caliber players. I mean, look at all the goaltenders that Finland's already kind of, pushed out. But not only will that game be exciting, but then you have, the overtone of what's been going on between the United States and Canada. I mean, you already hear the booing of the national anthem for the United States. Yeah. And it's only going to be amped up that much more because, these are the 2 powerhouses right now. And you just got to wonder, are the Tkachuks going to go off? Are they going to go off on a tangent? Are they going to hit everything they can? Are there going to be fights? Because it is NHL rules for this tournament. So I almost wonder if somebody's going to, take a punch, or if is everybody going to get a 10-minute misconduct like we have seen in other Tkachuk Bowls?
We need Garrett Rank to be the referee then for that one. So that's what we need.
We're going to have to look it up.
Yeah. So scoutingtherefs.com is the site to see who's going to be officiating the games. And we saw Wes McCauley be a little extra. We don't see every game with Wes, but this one for an international tournament and and even some casual fans tuning in, he's definitely put a little mustard on his calls today, especially the boarding call. So I'm going to do a little bit of screen share real quick on just ESPN promoting the 4 Nations. So it was on so many different programs, just a segment on SportsCenter, PTI, and also Get Up and Around the Horn. So that is awesome for just the exposure of the game, for what we saw as far as getting the fans ready for something like this. So and I went to the gym earlier today and I saw the segment with Emily Kaplan just giving some updates on the tournament. But speaking of updates, I found this out after I recorded last night for the Canada-Sweden game, that Shea Theodore is out for the tournament. So the rules with the tournament are that because of the rosters and other guys being on vacation during this time, you can't necessarily call up a guy. But Dallas Stars defenseman Thomas Harley is already on his way to Boston. In the case that, and the only way that you can get that extra guy is if you go down to 18 skaters. So another player would have to be hurt in order to activate someone. So a little strange there for the rules here, but Stars defenseman Thomas Harley is already on his way to Boston in case Canada goes down yet another skater. So insert Travis Sanheim for Team Canada, and we'll see how but at the same time, Canada, we saw a lot of these guys play extra minutes. It was really about just being paired with a different guy on one shift versus another. But that's really for this. That's really what to look forward to for coming into Saturday night. So we'll see. Does Sam Bennett play? We will see if he does.
I was about to say, I know that Canada ended up winning in overtime, but this is the game for Sam Bennett. This is why he's on the team. So if he does not play, I think whoever is running things in, whether it's the coaching staff or the general manager of that team, what are you doing? This is why you brought him here, to either totally neutralize what the Tkachuk brothers are going to do, or maybe you want to beat them at their own game as far as you want to go muscle for muscle or pound for pound. And you got to put them in the game, whether it's the third line or fourth line. You got to have somebody that can actually take that kind of animosity and put it into a game like this.
And think about all the guys that he's faced in the playoffs that are on Team USA, like Jack Eichel, for example, Vincent Trocheck as well. So that's another thing for that. This would be such a Sam Bennett game, and of course, knowing the guys on his own team and just how he's able to just talk to his teammates as well. Just say, hey, don't feed into what the shark. I don't know the saying, but don't feed what the Sharks are trying to bite at. I guess for this one, I butchered that one, but before we sign off here, it is February 14th. So yes, it's Valentine's Day, but also this day in South Florida history is also a day that we experience a little bit of tragedy with everything that happened at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas on this day in 2018. So 7 years since the horrific events happened there. And I do want to send my thoughts to the people and the families who are waking up on this day and don't have their loved ones with them. When they were brought onto this earth, they were probably thinking that in 2025 that they were still going to have them here. And unfortunately, one person's selfish act, unfortunately, they are no longer here. So we are thinking of the 18 people that are no longer with us. So I just want to give my thoughts there. But Nick, any thoughts on that?
I don't want to overshadow anything that's gone on in this community, especially with Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. They've been through enough. And on top of that, I think, with everything that had gone on down here, politicized or not, it's been enough. Yep. My alma mater in college went through the same thing on Valentine's Day in 2008. And by a selfish act, I think 6, 7, maybe 8 students their lives were taken. And it's never a good feeling. You never understand why things happen the way that they do, or, why people do what they do. But I think what's beautiful about, what has happened is the things that have happened afterwards, as far as like the outpour, the resources that we try to give people, and just the longing that we have to heal. So, I want to thank you for, reminding us of, what had happened. But, it's been 7 years, and look how far this community's come. And I look back at my alma mater and see how long it's been and how far they've come. And, there's another day, and, we should cherish everything that we do have and that we're able to wake up tomorrow.
Yeah. And My one and only interaction with Roberto Luongo was in the press box in Tampa Bay. And I didn't even mention anything about his play. The one thing I did was thank him for his speech to the public, from everything from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, and then just how the Panthers were able to just go play for the community after that, and almost even made the playoffs for them, and just how they came into that game against the Washington Capitals on just a week after, because they were still on the road. They were on the West Coast while that was going on. So once again, thankful to Roberto Luongo for that speech. But Nick, hate to end this on a sour note, but I couldn't end this podcast without mentioning that. But I do want to thank you for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, a Team USA win, and we're looking forward definitely for Rivalry Saturday for the Four Nations face-off. So thank you again, my friend.
Thank you. And everybody, please have a happy and safe Valentine's Day. Each day is a gift. And on top of that, we have Rivalry Saturday coming up. So let's enjoy the weekend.
Absolutely. Cannot wait. So see you next week, my friend.
I'll see you next week.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Steel Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Nich Fairbanks. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day.